crazy. So we're actually started now. I always say I don't do anything crazy. So I am here with Ron. It's Tsang, right?
Ron Tsang.
Ron Tsang. And Ron Tsang is the author of this book, which is actually a good read. I read From Presentation to Standing Ovation. I have it dog-eared, like I have notes taken in this book. And so Ron is a guy that I met at something called Archangel Academy, which is where a very curated list of 100 entrepreneurs gets to go to. It's not an easy thing to get into. So just that alone should let you know that Ron's dope. Like, you're dope. I'm going to use that word for you. And me and Ron happened to sit next to each other at a table, and he was telling me about this book. And it's odd because I've always had this thing of like, when I'm giving a speech, am I doing well? How do I really get that, like, that standing ovation at the end? Because I don't know how the hell to make it happen. But then he was like, yeah, you got to read the book that I'm writing. I wrote at the time. I was like, hell yeah. So you sent it to me in the mail. I read it. And then we're doing a podcast, man. I want to get this thing out there because it's a great book. Like, legitimately, it's a good book. Like, I was like, this is cool. It's simple to read, but it's like very powerful, poignant points that allow you to be like, okay, I can apply that now or tomorrow. And I think a lot of stuff can actually be used online as well. But yeah, tell me the process of like how you got here. Who are you? Like, why was this book something you decided to make?
Wow, that's a lot of stuff to get into here.
Yeah, I know.
I'll start with this. Even though I wrote this book on public speaking called From Presentation to Standing Ovation, growing up, I wasn't a good speaker. I was very shy, painfully shy. And when my voice changed, my voice became deeper, and I grew hair in places I didn't have hair before. I also had braces with rubber bands on them, and I was a mumbler. Even my own parents couldn't understand me. They would always ask me to repeat myself. What did you say? Yeah. Say it again. Speak louder. So you can imagine how frustrating that might be to keep hearing that all the time when even your own parents can't understand you. So even today, I have to be mindful of how I sound. I have a deep voice. You have a deep voice, Anthony. Yeah. But for me, I'm always mindful of how I sound to others. And so this book essentially describes the lessons I've learned and how to become a good speaker and go from a good speaker to a great speaker, because I wasn't a good speaker when I started out. And so the lesson is that no matter where you are now, becoming a great speaker, it's a skill that you can acquire.
That makes sense. And I think that's kind of something a lot of people struggle with, is thinking, well, man, I'm not prepared for it. I'm not good at it now. Can I be? And that's, I think they say that public speaking is like the second greatest fear besides dying. Is that right?
It's a popular saying, but I think actually there's an American, there's a study done on American adults, and public speaking is one of the top three. Number one being fear of snakes and fear of heights. And then you got public speaking.
Interesting. That's good to know. Because I mean, that's the thing, is a lot of people fear it. So I guess this book actually does go to some areas where it's like, it gives you the tools and the tactics. One of the ones that I like the most, chapter wise, and this was a bestseller on Amazon, right?
Yeah. Amazon Canada.
Oh, hey, it's
I'm waiting to move across the border. My friends in the States, check out the book.
Oh, you're in Canada?
I am. Yeah. Yeah. You've interviewed a couple of Canadians, right?
You know what's funny is
Varelli.
Yeah.
Varelli is Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. I got a lot of buddies up there. One of my web guys is from Canada. It's funny that the Archangel Academy, since everybody's based in Toronto, it's like everybody went from Toronto straight down to San Diego or Long Beach. And it's like either you're from Toronto or Long Beach, or you weren't coming. I was the only one from the Bay Area at the entire event. My thing was this end with excellence.
Yes.
I like this chapter because a lot of it, my thing was, how do you get to the standing ovation point? And I like how you tie in, because everybody, when I do a speech, they want me to do a Q&A at the end. So I do Q&A, and it's always the end of it. And I read this, is like, God, I've been doing it wrong the whole time, just the setup and how you do it. So I guess kind of summarize this chapter, because I think it'd be good for you to kind of, if somebody hasn't read the book yet, to be able to kind of get the gist of this chapter.
When it comes down to it, I don't think there are any rules per se. So if you are doing Q&A at the end, you're not breaking any rules. I think, though, there's an opportunity for you to have the final word. Mm-hmm. And when you're doing Q&A, what might happen is someone may ask a completely unrelated question, or they might ask a question that could put you in a bad light. And if that's the thing that your audience remembers, then how's that going to make you look? Psychologists have they describe the way memory works in terms of primacy and recency. The first thing that people remember, the hear tends to be the strongest. They anchor that, they remember that. And the last thing that people hear is another strong memory. So people remember the first thing and the last thing you hear.
Yeah.
You begin with a bang, you start strong, and then you end with excellence. You end strong as well. And if you end with Q&A and it ends on a sour note, then it's a missed opportunity because people may associate that sour feeling with you. If you end with your own words, end with a closing powerful story, or close a loop. You plant some seeds in the beginning and you close them thematically at the end. That's a great way to leave a Hollywood-style movie finish. Gotcha. And one example that I have in the book is Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. He starts with freedom and he ends with freedom. And let me see if I can I noticed your copy is very dog-eared, which I love. So
you gotta read it, man. I like to books that I like. I do that because I'll know that even though I don't remember exactly what it is, that I got to make sure I read that part again. I'm like, oh yeah.
So let me read to you what Martin Luther King said in his speech. I Have a Dream. Okay. His first sentence was, "I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation." So he plants the seed of freedom. Yeah. And then at the end, he says, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last." So that closes the loop. It's full circle. It comes full circle in that speech. It's a great example of how you can end with excellence.
I like that. And no, I've never, honestly, personally, I read that. I never even thought of doing that. I just like start talking and then I'm like, all right, thanks, you know? And that the thing is, I think that I can look back and be completely honest. I've probably dropped the ball a lot because there hasn't been as much that, like, it could be a great story, but if you don't leave that lasting impression, like having them feel like, oh, then you drop the ball there. So my question is, like, how did you transition to this? Because you said you didn't have that, and then you have this book out. Like, what is your, like, why are you the one that I got to listen to when it comes to this reading this book?
It's funny because in my career, I was actually working on Canada's Wall Street. I was a stock analyst, and my job was to listen to thousands of presentations from CEOs and CFOs. So if you've ever watched Shark Tank in the States or Dragon's Den in Canada, you've seen business people come on the show and pitch their company, pitch their product to these investors. So I was on that other end of the table, the investors, and I listened and evaluated whether or not the presentation was sound and whether or not the ideas were solid and whether or not something that we would invest in as professional investors. Managing our clients' money. So I heard a lot of those presentations. I had to evaluate a lot of those presentations at a senior level. And I think that helped me get a better sense of what makes a powerful message, what makes a memorable message, and what stories will resonate with people as well. And in addition to what I was doing professionally, in my spare time, I was also a member of Toastmasters. So, Anthony, are you familiar at all with Toastmasters?
I'm familiar with Toastmasters. I've actually spoken at Toastmasters, although I never actually joined Toastmasters.
What did you speak at? Was it a club? Was it a conference?
It was a club. It was actually a restaurant. It was just like they're like, hey, we have, I guess one of their meetings they have in the area. So I went there and talked, but they chopped me up, which was great. They were like, because they have their stuff fine-tuned. It was good, though.
It's very cool. For me, I've been a Toastmaster for 15 years now. I'm part of 2 different clubs, including an advanced Toastmasters club. And one of our members is the international director of Toastmasters. We have professional speakers, professional trainers, and aspiring professional speakers and aspiring trainers. So it's kind of a higher level than I think a lot of clubs. But the reason why I mentioned Toastmasters is because even though I was working in finance and Canada's Wall Street for close to 2 decades, what I really discovered that I loved was speaking and coaching and helping other people elevate their speaking, because I've gone through the hardships of not being able to speak well. In Toastmasters, I found a very supportive environment and people who wanted to grow and develop and help other people, a very service-oriented organization. Through Toastmasters, I was referred for training opportunities to train emerging leaders in the banks, people who were going through a leadership rotation program after their MBA program, for example. And from there, I discovered a real passion for training and for helping others develop their communication skills.
Okay.
So I would say that I've gone on this strange journey from being on the other end of presentations, hearing high-level CEOs and CFOs, and discovering a real passion for helping others with their presentations. And so that's what I love to do now.
I like it, man. That's great, because I think for me, that's always a big thing. So who is this person? What do they know? Why should I listen to them, right? And that actually gives me insight as to some of the things I read and how it kind of ties to your personality and how it rolls. So that's really cool. If you were to say, what's your favorite chapter in this bad boy? Like, what's the one that you enjoyed writing the most?
Well, I have to pull up this book again. My favorite chapter. It's like, do you have any who are your favorite children, Anthony? Do you have?
Well, I'm just kidding. I know what you mean. I don't have my favorite child. That's weird that I think about that. I'm like, there's days, I think, to be honest, completely honest, there's days I'm like, that's not my favorite right now. But the next day I'm like, it's my favorite. So, yeah, I don't know which is the one I would say that maybe outside of the one that I like, chapter 9, like what feedback wise has been the one that people enjoy the most?
It really depends on the reader's background. I find that some people who are very outgoing, not really like me, but people who are very extroverted, very in touch with their feelings, for example, they tend to like not the section on confidence. They tend to like the chapter on organizing their thoughts. So you mentioned chapter 9. The book is split up into 3 parts. The first part is confidence. The second part is crafting your message, your outline. And the third part is engaging your audience. So what I find people gravitate to the most is the area that they could improve in the most. So if the reader is extroverted, they don't have a hard time speaking. They might not connect with the confidence part. They might not need it. But the biggest challenge that many extroverts face is being focused. Many extroverts tend to ramble. They don't know when to stop. And so having an outline of their thoughts might be beneficial for them. I personally really enjoyed the storytelling chapter. It's storytelling is very important, very, very powerful. And it's how people first learn to communicate. In our ancestors, before they learned to write, they learned to communicate and set social standards and norms through stories. Stories of heroes, the hero's journey, as well as acceptable behavior. So the storytelling chapter first started off, I didn't think it was a great chapter. And some of the feedback was kind of negative, actually. One person, a professional speaker, read it and said that, Ron, I love your book, love the outlines. I was disappointed with the storytelling chapter. So this was last year. So I went back to the drawing board, interviewed some new people, including Tahani Abarani, her stories in the book. And I've added some extra stories in here as well, including a powerful parable about having your hand stuck in a cookie jar and learning to let go. So through the feedback I received, from the negative feedback I received at the early stages when I was writing this book, storytelling chapter became much more powerful. And so it's probably the chapter I'm most proud of now because I really had to struggle with it.
That's cool. It makes complete sense, I guess, the feedback. I'm happy you're able to take that feedback and do great with it, because some people have been like, no, I wouldn't want to change it. And I like that. But it's a good chapter. It's cool. It makes sense because story is huge. People remember stories. That's how we create pictures of what actually sinks in, I feel, from the stories that I like listen to. And actually I've heard that same thing you said about how our society really has been shaped by story for so many years. Like our ability to have a society be what it is now, thinking about like religion or, just some cultures, like how we do things, all written down. So story is a humongous part of it.
Absolutely. And I'm really proud also of this lesson that I personally learned from a master storyteller based out of Dallas. He writes for the Dallas Morning News. His name is Dave Lieber. And he actually developed this storytelling formula. It's simpler than Joseph Campbell's hero's journey cycle. It's a dip. You start off as a speaker or as a storyteller, and you start exploring the pain. How did it feel when you were suffering? What was your lowest point? Bring your audience to that dip as soon as you can. Many speakers spend too much time setting up the details, the exposition. But what people really connect to is a failure or a problem, a struggle. But you have to lift the audience up. So you bring them to that point of pain, the point of frustration and failure, and then the lesson. how you got out of it. What did you do to fight your way through that forest or through that cave or that dark space? And what brought you to where you are now? And what lessons can your readers and audience take away from that?
Gotcha. I like that. I mean, it does make sense if you think about it. We all kind of, I mean, even nowadays, people like drama. Even marketing is tied to that. I want to say negativity, but it's kind of tied to the backside aspect. It does. It's odd. It makes logical sense, but never thought of it before that way.
So check out that storytelling chapter.
I'm going to. Well, I've already
out there. Everyone out there, guys. All 19 of you.
It's like a real estate person, right? It's something like that. You said, is it Tahani?
Tahani, right? Tahani Abarani. She's got a fascinating story. I'm not going to do her justice here in our broadcast, but she's got an amazing story, and I've helped her give her keynote presentation to 1,000 women, entrepreneurs. And I gave her the same advice that you read in the book. That is to end with excellence. She's got a powerful story, and when she's used to speaking to her real estate and investor clients and speaking at real estate conferences, she would start with her most powerful story. And then end with Q&A. That's how most people start and finish. Well, the problem with that is that when you begin with a bang, if you picture your speech like a roller coaster, you peaked. Where do you go from there? You have to take people on a journey. And if you follow the storytelling structure that you get from watching Hollywood movies, part 1, part 2, part 3, act 1, act 2, act 3, you're taken on a natural journey. You're taking your audience on a journey that they'll enjoy. And that's what you can do in telling your stories and giving your speeches to make it an enjoyable experience for your audience.
That makes sense. I like that. You're thinking this thing through. It's like, I'm joking. You've done a great job with the book, man. I enjoyed the book. I'm honestly, because when we first talked, I'm like, I don't know how it's going to be. And actually I'm like, all right, here we go. And I enjoyed it, man. I went through it and it helps me because honestly, it's like something that I do. And for people who honestly, maybe they want to speak, I think it does give you some great ideas. I think some of the big issues for people, anything fear-wise, is not knowing what to do. But this is like your handbook. It's like a guide to how to do it. It's good stuff, man. I got to repeat it. I really like the notes section. I think that is one of the coolest parts of it because you can write right in there, like the thoughts you have, like what am I going to say when I open up? What am I going to say when I close? Like most people don't have that stuff. They don't even have the ability to write, to have it in one spot. So it's kind of like half book, half notebook at the same time. Yeah,
that's right. So for those of you just joined in the book, From Presentation to Standing Ovation, there are end of chapter activities. So if you want to create a speech, here's an outline in part 2. Just fill in the blanks.
1, 2. Yeah.
Yeah, just fill in the blanks.
That's cool. That's cool, man. All right, so where can we get this book? Where can people go and find this book?
The book's available on Amazon. If you come to my website, standingovationbook.com, it'll link to an Amazon link. So the website again is standingovationbook.com. Okay.
All right, I went ahead and dropped it in. I think I put the link somewhere. It says I could put the link somewhere, but I don't know if I did. I got to put www.standingovationbook.com. Oh, it did come in. Oh, you did fashion of me. It's supposed to like push it. There's like a little thing that says here. It says link. It's not doing it, but you put it in there already perfectly.
Yeah, it's actually not www. It's just standingovationbook.com.
But I'm not. You're smarter than me. I'm not that smart. Let's see if it works this time. It's supposed to send it over. I don't know. But you got it right there. So the link is in the side. Anybody that's watching right now on a recording, make sure you go to standingovationbook.com. Right. I always end with one random question. And I like this question. I don't know why I like this one. Okay. You're standing in a field, grass field. It's the middle of the day. A portal opens up in front of you. You have no idea how long it's going to be open. You don't know where it goes. You have no idea if you're going to come back. What do? You jump through or do you run away?
It depends on how I'm feeling. Right now, I'll jump through.
Yeah, I like that.
How about you? What would you do?
Oh, I would not jump through. Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't jump through. I got the kids, man. Unless I was on a walk with them, then I'd be like, we're going. And I would disappear.
Forget school, kids. Don't worry about school. Today's a trip.
What if it goes like the land where everybody's left sock is at or something? I'd be like, oh, well, that was a bad decision. But hey, we can hang out with socks. I don't know. All right, man. Wes, I appreciate it. How can people get a hold of you? So we got Standing Ovation Book. Go there, or is there a place that they can email you or anything else you want to be able to share with?
Well, I've got a Facebook community now. It's a private Facebook group called Ovation Nation. So everyone is welcome to join me and participate in group accountability, discussions about speeches, awesome speaking opportunities, and other tips. All my resources go to Ovation Nation first. You can find that on Facebook.
I like that. All right. I appreciate it, man. I am going to let you go for the rest of your day. I'm going to go ahead and get all this information kind of put together and out to you. But, man, I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Anthony. Looking forward to talking to you again soon.
You too.